Yeah.
Pretty normal night.
Yeah, it was really actually very quiet in the city, if I remember right. And we were just kind of hanging out, and then the box tone drops.
Right.
And I remember hearing the address. Yeah, I mean, it was right behind the firehouse. So I remember I went to go out to the truck, saw the door was open for the side door there.
Right.
And stuck my head out. Didn't see anything.
Didn't see anything.
We turned out and went up the street. 15 seconds later, there we are.
Right.
If I remember right, we had nothing showing out front, no smoke.
No.
We smelled it, though, right?
Right. You could smell it, and the ladder truck was behind you guys in the engine. So with my vantage point, I saw some smoke pushing from the back.
And then I went walking down, and you were getting dressed. You were getting the rest of your gear on, and
is that when the residents, because there was a handful of residents out there, and they confirmed that there was someone inside the apartment.
Yeah, so they were on the porch, and she kind of just looked at me very matter-of-factly, and she looks at me and says, "He's in there." And I said, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "Well, the guy who lives here, he's still in there."
Right.
And kind of making that judgment call at that point, I saw that the fire wasn't very big, at least not then.
Right.
So as the apparatus was moving around the block, I started to go into the search, and I remember it was pretty. Once that door opened, the fire started growing. It was pretty down to the floor right away.
It was. The smoke had kind of banked down quickly to the ground, and that was my initial thought. It was like, all right, I saw that you had gained access to the front door, and as I was getting the rest of my gear put together, I was like, well, we're gonna go for a search, and you had went in. I kind of made my way using our TIC, our thermal imaging camera, looked and saw kind of where what looked like the origin of the fire by the bedroom, the bed, I should say. And as I kind of panned over and you were already in, I found that you had located the guy pretty quickly.
I remember sweeping the room. I was down pretty low, like that banked out pretty quick, and I remember sweeping the room with the flashlight and looking right, and all I saw was a hand.
Right.
And I was like, well, he's here.
He's here, right.
And so at that point, what did you say, 20 feet maybe we had to move him?
Probably about 20 feet.
About 20 feet out to the door.
Yep.
And took a minute or two. He
had to reposition him a few times. He was kind of pretty much unconscious at that point.
Yeah.
Average size, maybe a little bit bigger guy, but barely dressed, so that made it a bit more of a challenge to get him out in those conditions.
I remember, the two of us pulling him back out, and then kind of almost falling onto the porch.
Well, that's when I kind of knew conditions had really changed rapidly. As we got him through that threshold of the door, we're pretty low and trying to stand up somewhat to get a footing. And at that point, the fire was just rolling out of that front door, chest height or so. Yeah,
fire. I mean, I remember looking back and looking at you, and you're pretty much involved in fire at that point. From, from like shoulders up, pretty much. It's blowing out right over top of you.
Yeah, we got him out. We were like, okay, we got him clear of the fire building out to the street, kind of handed him off to the paramedics, and at that point, I felt like we still didn't know if there was anybody else in there.
And then we were right back in for the search, and floors above, and we weren't quite sure
where the fire extended to.
I remember thinking afterwards, this was that fire dynamics class that you take that nobody, you don't really get to see a lot because the hose line's in there and working, but I remember thinking, we were in there for maybe 3-4 minutes?
Right.
And just in that short time, we went from a relatively small fire to
just
fire
with that
blowing
door,
out the door.
That door being open, letting in that fresh air.
Yeah. And it became very smoky very quickly.
Yes.
And so to see, fire growth even on the other side of the room for us would have been difficult.
I think the advantage was we knew where we entered from, and our path out was not so impeded by too many obstacles. So we kind of had a quick reference without really having to look back as to where we came, what direction we came from.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the simplicity of it, probably saved us from what could have been pretty bad for us, honestly, if it had been farther in, or
all in all,
the factors were in our favor.